Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing one final premiere draft of Dominaria United Alchemy, as these draft queues will be off of Arena by the time of this video's release. Without further ado, let's just get into the packs. This is Dominaria United plus one Alchemy card in each pack, and most of the Alchemy cards, much like Pull of the Mistmoon, are quite powerful. This is 3 mana for a Banishing Light or Prayer of Binding style removal spell that exiles a permanent until it leaves the battlefield, except with this one you can kick it for blue and 1 to give another permanent in your hand the same effect. So that permanent in your hand will also be an additional removal spell. So 2 removal spells off of just 1 card. Incredibly powerful thing here. And a pretty fun one to play around with for our last draft of the Dominaria United Alchemy queues. So I'll take Pull of the Mistmoon here, but Prayer of Binding is also very efficient, great removal, it's instant speed and you gain 2, and Keldon Flamesage is a bit of a bomb, being able to cast spells off the top of your library based on how much power that card has when it attacks. Alright, so the Alchemy card is out of this pack, so it was probably some kind of Alchemy rare, something pretty strong if our, I was going to say if our opponent, but if the player to our right wanted to pass up on Aether Channeler, it was probably a strong Alchemy card like our Pull of the Mistmoon, but that's okay for us because now we can just take the Aether Channeler. We're already considering going into blue with Pull of the Mistmoon's kicker effect being a blue ability, and Aether Channeler is a very flexible, rare, very good card. 3 mana for a 2/1 that draws a card that's already like Phyrexian Rager sort of stats, which is quite solid, and this just gives you all of these other options if those are better for you at the time. So Aether Channeler, really nice card here, pretty happy to take it. If it weren't in the pack, there's not a lot to go with our Pull of the Mistmoon, so we'd probably just take like an Urg or a Knight of Dusk's Shadow. Just one of these uncommons. They're all very good. And the next best card's like Miria's Outrider, big finisher, or Domain decks. Alright, pick 3 now. We do see a Territorial Morrow if we want to go Domain again. Very large creature. If you have all 5 basic land types, this is a 5 mana 10/10, which is pretty absurd. Other than that, if we stick to purely blue-white, we could go for a blue-white build with blue as the main color and try to play as many instants and sorceries as possible. We don't really have a start in that direction currently, but blue has plenty of good instants and sorceries for Tolarian Terror to get cost reduced quite a bit. We could also go for a bit of a Flyers theme, going for Talus Lookout here in blue-white. That would be a little more consistent. There are a lot of Flyers in both blue and white. So sticking to what we're doing, I think it's between Talus Lookout and Tolarian Terror. I like to take these kind of cards before I take the Shore Up, but Shore Up is great too. And if we want to jump ship, we can pick up the Territorial Morrow here. I think I'm going to go Talus Lookout here. I've been playing a lot of Domain, so for variety's sake, see if we can go for like a blue-white Flyers deck if possible. Might be getting cut off of it here, as the only blue card in the pack is not great, and the white card, there's just only one of. It is a very good combat trick, but don't know if I'm going to go after that if that's the only white card in the pack, especially when we see multiple great off-color cards. We see Lightning Strike in red, we see Miria's Outrider in red, we see Phyrexian Rager in black, and Yavimaya Iconoclast in green. A lot of good stuff here. Potentially push towards blue-red here. Lightning Strike's very efficient removal, very good card here. Can even be put into Domain decks if we have a lot of good mana fixing and stuff as just an early game way to stop more aggressive creatures. I think I'm going to take Lightning Strike here. I like the blue-red decks a lot. I think they're pretty well positioned in Dominaria United in general, and now we can take another Lightning Strike and head pretty firmly in that direction towards a blue-red spells archetype. Essence Scatter is great as well. I think I prefer Lightning Strike a little bit. Get to cut red entirely out of this pack. And now, nice aggressive red card, a 2 mana 2/1 haste with enlist as well. And whenever it enlists a creature, you get to conjure a duplicate of that creature into the top 5 cards of your library at random. So it could be on top, it could be 5 cards deep. And the duplicate gets +1/+0 in haste. So this is a really nice card, because obviously early game you're playing a 2 mana 2/1 haste and just beating your opponent down. Late game, this is a good top deck too, because you could be in a board stall where both of you have some 3/3s out or something and neither of you really want to get in. You top deck this and all of a sudden just enlist one of your 3/3s the turn that you drop this and attack with this and trade off your 2/1 into one of their better blockers. So I think Goblin Morale Sergeant's a pretty cool, pretty solid alchemy card there, and we'll roll with that. We've got a Tide Turner, which is not very exciting, even if you are blue-red spells. It just becomes kind of a Druid of the Cowl style mana ramp card, but less flexible, which is pretty bad. Sunbathing Root Wall is like the best card in the pack. Tura Kenurud makes the most sense for us. Cyclops is like fine, but it's pretty filler. And there's Contaminated Aquifer if we want to speculate on a duel. Still never been all that impressed by Tura. It always feels like it comes down too late to where you've already cast most of your spells, and it's a pretty small body for that 5 mana cost, so it's really easy for it to get killed by all kinds of removal at that point. So I am going to take the Aquifer in case we get any black kickers. And now we can take another Talus Lookout. That's nice and late. We're happy to see that. Pick 8. Also take up the shield here pretty late, but I think we're kind of moving off of the white direction here. Another take up a shield, a Captain's Call, and a Coalition Warbrute here. Really, really good start to blue-red, so I think I'm going to take Warbrute over take up the shield. Although I do already have 2 4-mana cards, and I don't want to end up with like 4 or more of them. 3 would be fine, but if we get like 1 more Talus Lookout, I'd probably cut Warbrute anyway, so I'll take this take up the shield just in case. So if we do manage to still play white, we've got 2 very good white cards instead of just 1. This pack is nonsense. If we're strictly trying to win, I just take Shield Wall Sentinel in case I open the Wingmantle Chaplain, but been avoiding that deck like the plague. We'll just take a Thrill of Possibility here. This can be good in the blue-red spells decks because it gives you an instant speed card draw spell, so it makes it easier to hold up the counter spells in this format that are pretty good, like Essence Scatter. Because then if you don't end up using an Essence Scatter, then you're still doing something with your mana, which is good. And there's an Essence Scatter, pick 13. We are in a great position to be drafting these colors if we're going to get Essence Scatters that late. That card is phenomenal in this archetype. Another card that's great in this archetype is Impulse, and that's kind of the only on-color card. The only other 2 options being a Coral Colony and a Furious Bellow. And don't like playing the Defenders deck, even though it is pretty much the strongest deck in the format. And the Furious Bellow is kind of replaceable. There's a lot of really good instants and sorceries in the color pair, such as Impulse. So I'm going to take the Impulse here. Our alchemy card is a Vine Soul Spider, which is green, so we can't really play around with it. And same with our rare Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief. Could splash it in and try to play a bunch of like Gaia's Mites and stuff, do that kind of Ivy deck, but I don't think it's generally worth it. Impulse is 100% going in this deck. It's going to be great every time. Now we get another Goblin Morale Sergeant versus Arona's Vortex. Actually, a little bit of a hard pick. I think that I'm going to go with the Goblin Morale Sergeant, because this is more consistently good. We can always cast it at its best, which is just 1 in a red. Bam, it's out. It's doing the best it can. Whereas Rona's Vortex, we need our Aquifer out for it to be really good. Otherwise, it's just an unsummon. It's just returning a thing to hand, which isn't terrible, but it's not great. I think unkicked, Goblin Morale Sergeant is better than Rona's Vortex, but the fact that we could occasionally kick Vortex is pretty powerful. If I had maybe another black dual land, I might go Vortex over Goblin Morale Sergeant, but I'm going to go for the Morale Sergeant here. We'd love to wheel some Tolarian Terrors, don't know how likely that is, but let's get our 2 drops here so we can get a nice aggressive start to our games. Ooh, wow. Incredible rare pass to us here, and we're going to scoop it right up. Vidalian Mindsinger. This is a 3-mana 2/2. It enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters for each time it was kicked. In our deck, we can kick it for 1 in a red. So for us, it's a 5-mana 4/4. And when it enters the battlefield, gain control of a creature with power less than its power for as long as you control it. So gain control of a creature with power 3 or less as long as we control this thing. And if we pick up any green duels, we can maybe double kick it, make it a 6/6 that steals a 5 power creature or less. This card is just pretty busted, especially if we can get some shore ups to protect it, keep our opponent from killing it and getting their card back. Thing is horrifyingly strong. So we've got a Beachfront here, which could help splash in some of these white cards, but the double white on Pull the Mist Moon is still really hard, and Take Up the Shield not the greatest off a splash. If we just take a regular card here, it's Keldon Strike Team as a 3/1 haste, a Sea Scavenger, which is really filler, or a Trove Mage with 0 artifacts. So I think I'm just going to take Protect the Negotiators, which if we get some white duels and we're able to kick this on occasion is a pretty strong counterspell. Without being able to kick it, it's pretty medium, but I don't think I'm going to take the white duel before getting something I'd actually want to splash in, because I don't think these are really splash worthy. All right, and yet again, Draft Pod proving we are in a great archetype to be in at this table. The Balmor Battle Mage Captain going pick 5 here. Beautiful card for the archetype. Great aggressive creature you can drop early and beat your opponent down really quickly, or you can use this as kind of a combo tool and drop it down late game the turn that you're going to kill your opponent, like on turn 6 going, okay, here we go. Balmor Impulse Lightning Strike. Give your whole field +2/+0 trample. That way you're playing around removal and just getting the huge buff out of it. So Balmor really good in either of those kind of play patterns. Got a Phyrexian Espionage here, which is pretty exciting with a Contaminated Aquifer. Joint Exploration is another one of these good impulse style cards that helps us have an instant speed card draw spell, so that if we want to hold up a counterspell, it's easier to do so. We might actually take that over Espionage just so all of our non-creature cards can be instant speed, so it's easier to hold up a bigger variety of cards. Yeah, that makes Lightning Strike more powerful as well. Then we can hold up a Lightning Strike in case our opponent plays a good 3 toughness creature, and if they don't, we cast Joint Exploration instead. So yeah, we'll go with that over the Phyrexian Espionage. I'm going to take Shore Up over the 3rd Talus Lookout because we have Vidalian Mindsinger and Balmor. I think Shore Up is really good with both of those cards. The Mindsinger is obviously going to draw removal from your opponent immediately. They're going to want to get their creature back, and being able to prevent that for only 1 mana is very, very good. And with Balmor, it works in 2 ways. One way is that Balmor is also a lightning rod for removal. Your opponent usually wants to kill that as soon as possible, so being able to protect it is always good. And you also have the ability to cast an instant or sorcery for only 1 mana, so you can stack up multiple instants and sorceries in 1 turn a little easier for the huge buffs. Got an Amplifier here, which is fine, or another Impulse. I'm going to take another Impulse. We are going to need some more creatures in the last pack, but these blue-red spell decks tend to only need somewhere between like 9 and 11 creatures instead of the normal like 15 to 17. 5, 6, 7, 8, and we already have 8, so we only need like 1 or 2 more creatures. Ideally we get more than that so we can cut some of the more mediocre ones like the Voda Sea Scavenger, but I'm not really hurting for creatures. I'd rather be upping the quality of my non-creature spells right now. Don't think I'm going to main deck a Negate. It's arguably playable in this strategy because it's kind of a 2-mana Shore Up. We counter their removal and protect our stuff, which is important with Mindsinger and Balmor, but we do have enough draw spells that it's possible. But I don't know, I've had too many games Renegade's not going to do much because there are a decent number of decks that are the normal like 17 creatures, which means there's only like 5 non-creatures in their whole deck. Nothing in this pack does anything for us, nor in this pack, but I guess I'll take the Sea Scavenger. Guess I'll take the Hurler Cyclops. And last pick for Phyrexian Espionage. All right, well, if we wanted it, we got it. So what do we have now? Pack 3, pick 1. Our Alchemy card is unfortunately a Black Dragon, Derrygaz's Whelp. Not a card we can play here. We can take a Battlewing Mystic, though, which is pretty nice for our archetype, and it gives us another creature. It's a 2-mana 2/1 flyer to play in the early game and start beating down our opponent, and if we top deck it late game, we get to kick it, discard our hopefully empty hand, and draw 2 cards. So a very, very nice card here. There's also Flowstone Infusion, which is pretty good. Pretty good. I guess they don't have that much interaction. I have double Lightning Strike, Jaya's Fire Nado, and then counter spells. So I could go for the Infusion for more ways to clear out small creatures. It's also really cheap. I might go Infusion over that. Tolarian Geyser's really, really nice because it's going to slow your opponent down while you're beating them down with your little hasting Goblin Morale Sergeants and stuff, and it is also going to be able to bounce a late game threat to put it in your opponent's hand so that you can scatter it when they try to recast it. So Tolarian Geyser, very powerful, very flexible card, perfect for the archetype, to where I'll take it over the Shivan Reef or the Urtai's Scorn. Wonderful card. Now we can take a blue-red land. Actually, Essence Scatter is probably better than that. We're probably just not splashing anything and just going straight blue-red. And hopefully not needing that mana fixing. I am going to take the second Essence Scatter here. Card is just too good for the archetype, especially when we have so much instant speed card draw like Double Impulse, Joint Exploration, Thrill of Possibility. Our deck is really good at holding up instants. This pack is useless. There's a Tide Turner that I will almost definitely cut. Smash to Dust and Tide Pool Turtle and Coral Colony I will 100% cut. Check if I own everything. I do. You can hold down the Alt key to see your counts on everything, how many you have in your collection during the draft. If it's a check mark, you have 4 out of 4, so we don't need to rare draft anything, but I could still do it for Vault Progress, sure. We'll take a Baird and get some more Vault Progress there. Another Shore Up versus Battling Mystic's a pretty hard choice, but again, with the Mindsinger Balmore stuff going on, I actually think I'm going to go Shore Up over the Mystic, awkwardly enough. This is a really cool Mythic rare. If you're in green, this card seems pretty powerful. It's a lot of mana, but the green decks in this format can go very late game. And this is, I mean, say you spend 7 mana on it, you're going to get a 4/4 Morrowind and 3 1/1s for 7? Yeah, 7 mana or more, I think that'd be the cutoff where it starts getting just absurd. Mirror's Outrider is a solid finisher for these decks, and that would give us a reason to actually run our Contaminated Aquifer. Just nice sized body there. Gets in for 2 damage even if your opponent has infinite blockers. Okay, another Talus Lookout. Roll with that. Very, very happy of my choice of Shore Up over the third Talus Lookout earlier, since we're just going to get one now in a pack that has basically nothing else that we want in our deck. I do like me a Goblin Picker. I could take a Radiant Grove now, but it's essentially a colorless land just to up the power of Miria's Outrider, which doesn't feel worth it. Alright, now we just start wheeling Battling Mystics because we cut the table out of blue-red. So we got everything we wanted this pack, pretty much. We even got the Urtise Scorn to wheel. I think the only thing that we wanted that we didn't get is we didn't get any Tolarian Terrors. But that's because that card is really good in like any blue archetype. It's at its best in the blue-red, I would say, but yeah, no Tolarian Terrors wheeled here, unfortunately. And then probably some splashier, somewhat domainy strategy took our other Battling Mystic. But we got one of them back here, which is more than good enough. Now I can cut the 2 Scavengers. Probably the Hurler Cyclops and the Warbrute. Maybe the Goblin Picker as well. Or the Keldon Strike Team. Let's see. 46 cards. We're going to be cutting 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 creatures. A little more than enough for this kind of archetype. I think we can cut Fire Nado and rely on Essence Scatters. And then we still have the one, like, Tolarian Geyser to work with the Essence Scatters as a way to kill a creature that has resolved. I think I want to cut down ideally to almost completely instants. So I would like to cut the Phyrexian Espionage there for that reason. There's 4 more cuts. I think we're just cutting 4 non-creature cards, although Keldon Strike Team is not looking particularly spicy here. I guess the 1 toughness is a hard sell because white decks exist in this format, and white decks in this format are just all about making 1/1s all over the place. So the Keldon Strike Team is really bad in the white matchup. Play a Pixie Illusionist, I guess, instead. Gives me a little flyer to chip in for a couple points of damage, and gives me a tiny bit of potential synergy, like maybe I do an extra damage out of Outrider. Maybe I actually get to kick a Mindsinger, which would be nuts. So maybe Illusionist over Strike Team, but that doesn't seem that exciting either. I don't think I need another 5-drop when I've got Mindsinger and Outrider, or another 4-drop when I have Triple Lookout. I mean, honestly, Sea Scavenger might just be better than Strike Team or Illusionist, as filler as the card is. 3 mana, 3/2 that basically scries 2 when it enters the battlefield for our deck. Pretty fine. Pretty fine. Yeah, I'll run that. Oops. That's not that one. I'll run that over Pixie Illusionist. That card's just much more narrow. Okay, 4 cuts. Probably Furious Bellow. So we have 3 instant speed. We have 4 instant speed card draw spells. 3 instant speed removal spells. 3 instant speed counter spells. That's if I cut Protect. I am a low creature count and not splashing white, so I think I'll cut Protect. Okay. So 4 instant speed card draw spells that make it so if I'm holding up a counter spell or if I'm holding up a removal spell and I don't need to cast either, then I get to cast one of these card draw spells that feels like about what you want the counts to be, a tiny bit more card draw than counters or removal. And then we actually have 5 counter spells here because we have 2 shore ups as well, kind of, which is a little awkward. Maybe I cut the Urtai's Scorn. I'm definitely cutting Protect and Furious Bellow. Two cuts to go. I could see cutting a land here when I have double Impulse, Joint, Exploration, Through-Look possibility. Especially Impulse. I have cast a lot of Impulses for a basic land in my time. Like, it never feels spectacular, but that's part of the power of Impulses, that you just dig for exactly what you need out of the top 4. And if you need a land, you need a land. You do what you gotta do. I don't really want to cut this score, and I might cut a creature over it. It is harder to hold up as a counterspell, much harder to hold up than Shore Up, and a good bit harder to hold up than Essence Scatter. Like turn 5, well, turn 4, I've got a lot of 2-drops, so being able to turn 4 play a 2-drop and hold up a Scatter is not unreasonable at all. But Scorn, I'd have to wait till turn 5 to play a 2-drop and hold it up. I think I'm gonna, I don't know, it's like Scorn in a land or Scavenger in a land, something like that. But without Tolarian Terrors, part of the reason that this deck is really good at running a low creature count, like I'd only run the 9 creature version of this deck if I had like 2 or 3 Tolarian Terrors. Because they're part of the reason that this deck can be so good at running a low creature count is because you can have multiple like really impactful creatures that make up for the lower creature count, like Tolarian Terrors when you're playing a 5/5 Ward 2 for only 3 or 4 mana. Kind of makes up for the fact of a low creature count deck, but we don't have any Tolarian Terrors here, and a lot of our creatures do feel pretty insignificant, so we probably do need to stack multiple together to actually find lethal and deal enough damage to our opponent to win the game. So I don't really want to cut down more creatures. I want to run the full 12. I might even want more, so I'm just going to cut the Urtai's Scorn in a land and call it a deck. 16 blue and 9 red. That sounds like we're cutting a mountain. I have no double red cards. I'd be running 7 red sources. I have 4 double blue cards, and I'd be running 9 blue. Yep, 9 blue, 7 red. It sounds correct to me. This will be the deck. Alright, here we have the deck we'll be playing today. It's going to be a blue-red spells deck to finish off the Dominaria United Alchemy draft. For the creatures, we have a bunch of just your basic filler blue-red creatures. That's not really the most impressive or exciting part of the blue-red spells decks, but we do have the Balmor here that is going to give +1/+0 to our field whenever we're casting an instant or sorcery. Couple Goblin Morale Sergeants as our coolest alchemy card in the deck, being able to enlist other creatures and dump extra copies of that creature into our library, which is very cool. We've got triple Talus Lookout for some evasive threats, a Battling Mystic as well. Aether Channeler is one of our rares in the deck, being able to be a very flexible enter the battlefield effect there. And Vidalian Mindsinger being the biggest bomb in our deck, being able to steal an opposing creature for as long as we control that Mindsinger. So pretty standard kind of creature base here. Nothing the most exciting. The lack of Tolarian Terrors is going to be a big deal. But the main way that the blue-red spells decks operate, and the way that this deck is going to operate, is by just dumping out whatever mediocre creatures we have while holding up the mana for all of our interaction to stop our opponent's game plan as we slowly chip away at them with our mediocre creatures. So the idea is beat them up with mediocre creatures while every time they try to cast something big, like a like a 5 mana 10/10 from the domain decks, we can Essence Scatter it. If we don't need to spend any interaction, then we're just casting a card draw spell to pick up our next piece of interaction for later. We're using Impulse or Joint Exploration or Thrill of Possibility to dig for a different counterspell or a different removal spell to have that at the ready for whatever our opponent's casting. For all of their early game creatures, we're just going to Lightning Strike them away or Flowstone Infusion them away, and their late game creatures will Essence Scatter them or Tolarian Geyser them back to hand to slow them down just enough to beat them up with our cheap creatures. So that's the idea of the blue-red decks. Slam down a bunch of creatures, stop whatever your opponent's doing just long enough to finish them off with whatever mediocre nonsense you have going on board. So pretty tempo archetype here. We'll see how it works out for us as we head into the final games of Dominaria United Alchemy. Alright, here we are, game 1. This is a pretty awkward hand. We don't have any creatures, our mana's rough, but I can Impulse to the red source. I don't know if that makes it worth the keep here. I think I'm going to mulligan this one. If I had like one creature, the fact that I can Impulse towards the red source would be reasonable, but I'm just like all interaction, so I'm going to mull this. This looks better. Still a little awkward, a little low on mana, but that's probably fine. We might get rid of Tolarian Geyser, just run all creatures all day long. Goblin Morale Sergeant plus Aether Channeler seems nuts. Yeah. We'll see if we can do some sick things with those cards together. See what happens here. Uh-oh, opponent is very aggressive. A 1 mana 2/1 that can also enlist, and every time it enlists, they get a +1/+1 counter on the next creature they cast. Not me wishing that this was my Flowstone Infusion instead of my Lightning Strike. Alright, at least they didn't have a 2-drop to follow it up. Blow it up right now, but they can't enlist a summoning sick creature, and we don't see any red mana from them, so it's not like they're going to enlist on us next turn, so might just go Sergeant. Could also go Mystic and then next turn Sergeant enlisting Mystic. And just keep dumping 2 mana 3/1 hastes in my deck. I think I'm just going to beat up with Goblin Morale Sergeant and then Lightning Strike next turn. Ideally we're hoping for a land, so we could cast an Aether Channeler and just like bounce the Knight Commander or whatever creature they cast alongside it instead, so that I can be committing another creature to the board while also dealing with their threats. This could be an artillery blast here. Looks like it is not. They're going to take 2 damage. They are on green-white with a Crystal Grotto now, so they could cast... well, they could tap for whatever mana off the Crystal Grotto. Impulse is the draw. Really don't want to trade these 1 for 1. I think I'm going to try to Lightning Strike this Banalish Knight Counselor. The awkward part here, though, is they have a bunch of open mana. Alright, luckily they did not have a big enough combat trick to save that. There's not a ton of combat tricks that would have worked there. If they had Take Up the Shield, that could have saved it, but Gaia's Might would only give +2/+2, it would still die to 3 damage. Colossal Growth would also only give +2/+2, it would still die to 3 damage, so pretty lucky for us there. Okay, I don't have any interaction I can hold up at instant speed now, so I'll cast Battling Mystic. Main phase 2. They do have artillery blast, they were just saving it for a potentially bigger threat. Well, how badly do I need to land? It's pretty bad. I could just impulse main phase and play land for turn. Yeah, 3 4-mana cards. I should probably just do that. Alright, let's get that second blue source for all these lookouts. Could discard the whole hand and draw 2 new cards if I want to do that. Okay, we got Balmor. I think I'm just going to Aether Channel or draw a card though. Still digging for that 4th land. It could have an Essence Scatter off the Crystal Grotto. I'd be very unhappy with that. Beautiful. Alright, we've got all the mana we need now. Now we just start slamming down a bunch of Talus lookouts. My concern here is our opponents played 2 spells, and it's turn 6, which means their hand is probably very big late game plays. If their hand's all removal, that works pretty well for us, because the lookouts keep giving us cards every time they die. But if their hand is late game plays that they can't spend off this 6 mana, it's going to be pretty devastating. It might be all removal. Being exile removal is a little worse for us, but we're still ahead in cards. Even if they 1-for-1 everything with exile removal. Okay, it is big late game plays. Yep, that's going to be a problem. Oh, Arena's got jokes. There's Essence Scatter. 1 turn too late. And we know our Tolarian Geyser's on the bottom because we had to mulligan it away. So we might just die to a Mossbeard Ancient. Because we drew Scatter 1 turn late. If I had the Scatter in hand earlier, I would be not playing Lookouts. I would have just slammed down Balmor, held up Scatter. Against the opponent who has like 7 mana and only casts like 2 spells, I am never not holding up Essence Scatter. And for that reasoning, we are probably playing Balmor here and holding up Scatter still in case they have another big threat. And die really quickly to this Mossbeard Ancient. Alright, maybe I can get 16 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I need to cast like 4 spells. That's not going to happen. Okay, I have to block Mossbeard Ancient with at least 4 toughness to survive. Balmor doesn't give haste, does it? No. I can joint Exploration and have 3 mana left, so I could cast a Battling Mystic and a Shore Up still. I could Shore Up Balmor and block Mossbeard with it. Because I need 4 toughness. Problem is I'd want to Shore Up during my turn to get extra damage out of it, but I think I can do enough damage here to kill them in 2 swings, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Put them to 7 life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, chumping with Balmor, I'd still have 7 damage on board. Okay, yeah, let's joint Exploration. I don't think I'm holding up an Essence Scatter, because I want to cast this Battling Mystic to make sure I still have lethal. Next turn, even if I chump with Balmor. Now, I could either Shore Up right now and get 4 more damage. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, make it 13 damage. But then if they have 1 removal spell, I die. Or I can Shore Up during their turn to untap Balmor and block, and it would have to be an instant speed removal spell for me to die instead of sorcery speed removal. that they could just use on either of these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 7 life. Balmor dies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I lose to removal either way, so it doesn't really matter. Now I'm concerned their last card in hand is more removal. If they use it on Balmor here, that works pretty well for me. But yeah, if they just wait, if their last card in hand was instant speed removal and they just wait till here, I'm just dead. Guys might. Yep, that'll do it. Exactsies. Unfortunate. Surprisingly close game there in the end. But we'll start 0-1. I don't think it's unreasonable for this deck to be a 16 land deck, but our mana is persisting as an issue here in game 2. This probably has to be a mulligan because we don't actually have any card draw to dig for those red sources. These are just not good draws these first couple games here. This is quite rough. I guess we kind of have to keep this. I can't really just mold a 5. I'm getting rid of one of these shore ups because I don't have anything to protect with them anyway. Quite yet. Well, there's the target. There's the target for the shore ups. Opponent's on black-green. There we go. Now we've got a 2-drop. Start slamming in for 2. And now we're golden. The game plan begins. All we really need is one creature and then a ton of instants. And that's how we do it. Opponent's on a domain deck. This could be pretty bad for us. Play a lot of creatures that are too big to get lightning striked. That is not too big to get lightning striked. So I am probably going to boop it. So I keep hitting with the Goblin Morale Sergeant. Both to the top. Opponent has straight gas. More good draws coming up. Balmor. Nice. I can cast Balmor and still hold up Shore Up, and the only thing I'm holding up at instant speed is card draw, so it's not like I'm not holding up interaction. Actually, don't have interaction to hold up. Okay. Probably enlist Balmor, don't we? I do want to hit lands. I might throw a possibility this goblin away. I might just scry 2, draw 1 first. Scry 2, draw 1 seems reasonable. I do kind of like that, but I need the land badly. Trying to get to 5 mana. Might play Goblin Picker. Okay, I don't want to enlist Balmor anymore. I don't want to put a million legendary Balmors into my deck. But 1 is fine. Now we have a backup Balmor. Threats undetected. I think we just win. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, we put them to 1 life after casting a Thrill of Possibility, since they are nearly tapping out. So I choose 2 of these cards. They get shuffled back into their library. I just want to shuffle the cheapest creatures back in, so they can't afford those creatures. Thrill of Possibility. Mirror's Outrider finds lethal when we cast it, so I'm discarding Mindsinger, weirdly enough. And there's Goblin Morale Sergeant. That'll do it. May as well double enlist. Alright. And they are going to scoop them up. That is going to be 1 and 1 now. Very, very aggressive stuff. The morale has improved. Here we are, game 3. I am going to keep this hand with double Impulse Joint Exploration to find the red source. Cult Conscript turn 2. Relatively aggressive here. Scared of that. Opponent's on 3 color as well, so it looks like they're going to get all of the benefits from playing Domain while still having the aggressive lead with a card like Cult Conscript here. Not a phenomenal start for us. There's a Deathbloom Gardener now. It's Impulse that digs farther to find the mountain, and there it is. Aether Channeler was a phenomenal draw here. We get to slow them down by bouncing that Deathbloom Gardener. Now they just have to recast that again next turn. Snap Trade. The Conscript does come back later, but it only comes back on turns where their other creatures die. They've got very good Domain here. I doubt the rest of the creatures they're playing are going to easily die to a Lightning Strike, so I might just strike the Gardener here. I could also just play... I can actually just play Mindsinger as well and just steal the 1/1 Death Touch. That's kind of weird, but that might be the line. If I had a Shore Up in hand, that would definitely be the line. I'm just going to do it. How often do you get to steal a 1/1 with a Vidalian Mindsinger? Territorial Marrow, welcome. Got a 1/1 Death Touch to block that. We have 5 mana thanks to the Deathbloom Gardener, so I can cast something for 3 and still hold up my instant speed stuff. I don't really have anything for 3 that I want to play. I guess I just draw a card right now. Then... if it's a land, I just play it. Sea Scavenger, Aquifer. Yeah, Aquifer is solid with Outrider. I do still want a little more mana. So I could cast Lookout and hold up a Scatter or something if I draw into one. That's pretty brutal. I can Impulse and see if I hit a Shore Up. I am not gonna get to block this turn. So I'm going down to 10, but I'll keep the Death Toucher. I'm going down to 8. That's full Domain now. There's the blue source. You double Gaia's Might. Colossal Growth? That's fine. That's not lethal. They have 1 card in hand now? Bold. I will take it. I can play Lookout and still hold up my Lightning Strike. Oh, last card in hand's probably Miria's Outrider, but we haven't drawn any scatters this game, so... we have the cards in our deck to beat going that aggressive, trying to get the win off Miria's Outrider, but don't have them in hand. 1 and 2. Alright, here we are now in game 4 with our blue-red spells deck, and now we have no blue mana, so that's a definite mulligan. Gotta play 6-card hands in every match, I think. Might have kept one 7-lander, or 7-card hand. But we have been drawn really rough today, unfortunately. And we've got a 0 creature hand now. But I can't really mold a 5 and expect to keep up. Get rid of this Haunting Figment for 1 mana, pretty good deal. And we do draw a Goblin Picker, which is an excellent creature here. We get to beat down for the early game, and if I flood out, then I get to draw some cards off of that. Phyrexian Espionage from our opponent, going to put them a good bit ahead in terms of cards. They draw 2 cards off of that 1. I get to hold up an Essence Scatter this game, which is lovely. They're blue-red here. They could have Tolarian Terrors and stuff that could be scarier than that. Could give them the card draw here, and then still have the Scatter to deal with Terrors. Could also Geyser that and just slow them down for now. But I'm pretty fine with the Lightning Strike. If I hit another land, I think that's where I start just using the picker to get rid of them and draw more cards. That card gets devastatingly big pretty quickly, but I can Geyser it after it has some counters on it. Can't really attack into that thing. Let's see what we can find off of our Impulse. Balmor or Joint Exploration? Balmor's not doing that much here, but probably better than Joint Exploration. Am I discarding this to draw a card? 5 mana seems pretty good. I can Geyser and Scatter in the same turn. I don't think I'm discarding this land. Cannot block that. They're just gonna pass the turn. Aquifer I can definitely discard. If their card in hand is Shore up here, they demolish my Goblin Picker. So, since I have a good discard anyway, I'll just not attack with the Goblin Picker. Is there a reason to wait to do this? I don't think there is. Find another mountain. I'll hold on to that for the picker. Lightning Strike, you got it. Got the scatters now. Or whatever they hope to play next. Would really prefer to draw a Lightning Strike. I think we have 3 in the deck, so we have 2 more. We might have just 2. That is definitely getting scattered. Here come the Tolarian Terrors. Battlewing Mystic. That is really good when I run out of stuff. So do I just play in a way that would get me to run out of stuff here? Just Geyser and hold up the scatter now. That could be reasonable. We go for the Mystic refuel. Alright, get rid of the shore up when we're not actually killing it. Feels pretty good to me. Ooh, they also got me to not draw the card there, so I'm closer to the full Battlewing Mystic refuel. Timely interference, sure. Probably just dying to infantry now. I need to hit my other bounce spell, the bounce rare. Battling Mystic is not a reasonable game plan to win anymore. So we did not manage to bounce scatter the infantry. These are not going to beat a 4-5. Trample as well. They cast like any spell, they win this combat. Whatever, make them have it. At this point, we're just so dead. I'll just have 50 shore-ups to work with the infantry. This is when you have the right things at the right time with the blue-red deck. Wow, this is really bad draft today. That is super unfortunate. We were missing some key pieces that do make our deck a bit weaker, that make it so our deck can have some pretty bad games like this. But I don't think this was a 1-3 deck on average. I think we just had some pretty rough draws there. We mulliganed almost every game, and drew a lot of the wrong stuff at the wrong time. Essence scatters one turn late a lot. Several games where we draw like the wrong interaction. Rough stuff. Rough stuff today. Still got one win out of it at least. So not horrible. Not completely a wash here. But the biggest thing that we're missing out with this deck is the Tolarian Terrors. There's some individual creatures that can kind of try to single-handedly close the game. It helps a whole lot with your kind of tempo sort of interaction strategy when you can kill your opponent with only a few swings instead of having to try to keep things under control for like 10 turns to kill them with a 2-2. So should have taken the Tolarian Terrors more highly. That was the only thing I really saw in our draft pod. We never saw the 2-mana 1/2 uncommon that gets a +1/+1 counter every time you cast a spell, but that is one of the most busted cards in the archetype, similar to like Balmor. Actually, probably better than Balmor, but yeah, that was something we couldn't pick up. I do think blue-red was pretty open. We were getting a lot of good stuff late. We got strikes, impulses, scatters, all of the great spells here, but should have taken more Tolarian Terrors, had more power in my creature base. That was our biggest flaw here. Our creature base just could not compete. Other than just some rough games, some rough luck. Certainly that game where we got Colossal Growth into Miria's Outrider was just phenomenally brutal. Because that's like, my deck should be good against this kind of play, but it's really not right now, based on these draws, so definitely happens. A 1-3 it'll be to end off the Dominaria United Alchemy drafts. Bit of a rough way to end the format, but what can you do? It happens. So that is going to end today's video. These next couple days we've got some nonsense. that's not great. Like Dominaria United quick draft, I guess. We could play more Dominaria United, or we could do more Streets of New Capenna. Both of those formats pretty old and pretty stale at this point, because I've been playing a lot of them lately, but we'll see. We'll find something cool to do these next couple days. But after that, starting Thursday, we're going to get Premier Drafts of Throne of Eldraine back for the first time in a long time, so that'll feel pretty fresh and pretty exciting. So I'm very, very excited for that. Throne of Eldraine Premier Drafts. We'll be doing a lot of those next week. And then about a week after that, I think it's Crimson Vow Quick Drafts. And then a little bit of Cube. I think they have a Chromatic Cube midweek Magic event, like at the start of November or something like that. And an original Dominaria sealed arena open. So really cool stuff. Like a week from now. Next couple days, though, I don't know. We'll find something to do. But that's going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And that'll let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.